Everybody. We're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to come in, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Kim Kocak, and I'm the owner and founder of Corazon Holistic Health. And today we're going to talk about why holistic health. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to bring this particular topic up, because there's a lot of things that people have questions about what is holistic health. What does that really mean? Does it mean that we don't use Western medicine in any way? And so we want to answer some of those questions today for everyone. And I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to get online. Just had a couple of people joining. So welcome everyone who's joining online. As we start this process today, I just want to say thanks for joining us. And Sophia, could you minimize that piece? Thanks. So I have technical help today. Sophia and Juliet are here to help me with all the technology, because technology is not my strong suit, for those of you who know me. So we're going to have an opportunity for people to ask questions in the chat. So I really want to encourage you to do that. Your questions matter, and I really want you to get the most out of this event today, to be able to walk away feeling like, oh, I understand this better, and I have some ideas about what I'm going to do differently going forward. So the first part of this is, what is holistic health? Well, I can read you a kind of definition, and we can go from there. It says holistic health is an approach to well-being that considers the whole person, body, mind, spirit, and emotions in the pursuit of optimal health and wellness. That is a technical definition. So it goes beyond the symptoms to treat to the root causes. That's one of the reasons why it's really important, because it's not like, I have this thing, but what's causing it? It keeps coming back. It keeps recurring. Why is that? How do I make sure that I am addressing the why, so that it doesn't come back, and then I can really start to become healthy, and I'm healing internally and reaching all of those pieces that improve the quality of my life. I mean, because that's the goal, right? To improve the quality of our life. So the second is integrated lifestyles, mindsets, nutrition, environment. Our environments do hold a lot of power over our health, right? Our mental health, our physical health, all of those things is all matter. What we eat really matters. It goes right to our gut health, which is our immunity, right? So these are all things that are all interacting and are very important to consider. Promotes balance and self-awareness. So the self-awareness piece is really, really important, because most of us live from here up, right? We're in our heads most of the time. We don't realize our shoulders are up here. We really don't understand that we're having anxiety in our gut, or why our guts aren't working correctly. We don't even realize how tight we are and how much we aren't moving, right? We're driving, we're on computers, and we're really just living from here up. And we get in our own heads about things that ruminate, and it's really hard sometimes to move through that when the biggest stressor is our internal thoughts. So those are all some of the things that are holistic health. But there are some key principles. And some of those key principles are the individuality of holistic health. So when you go to a medical facility, your doctor's got, and listen, they have their own issues with insurance payments and the number of clients they've got to see. And this is a whole thing. So I am not blaming doctors for this. It really is not set up for them to spend that time. So we're all trying to find this balance of, how do we spend enough time? But there's not a lot of individuality, right? It's, well, this is what it is. Your numbers are within the normal range, and here you go. And you walk away saying, well, I still don't feel well. So what does that look like, right? I'm still not good. So how do I figure out what's going on if my doctor isn't telling me, right? What do I do? So preventative first, right? So we really try to take a preventative approach in holistic health, because it's really hard to treat something once it's there. This is taking you out of work. This is taking you out of your life. This is taking you out of the things you want to do. Where we're preventative, it is more intentional and takes more mindfulness to do that. But it's really the way that we stay the healthiest. And that comes mostly through knowledge and intentionality, right? The mind-body connection. I can't say enough about how important this is, and how I work a lot with trauma and autism, people with depression and anxiety, and there's a real disconnect in our society between the body and the mind, right? So I don't even know what's happening. I may not be feeling hungry, but I'm eating a bag of chips. I don't understand that that's stress, right? That's anxiety. What's triggering that behavior? So I'm not really understanding what my body's really saying to me. I'm just trying to get through to the next thing, right? And that is how we end up with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, gut health issues. I mean, name it, and there we are, right? I mean, that's exactly what we're working with. So, natural therapies. Working with natural therapies is like emphasis on diet and movement, mindfulness, and natural resources. So, what does that mean? Well, most medications are made from something in nature and then they're synthesized, right? So a lot of times we can use magnesium to help with sleep or to help with anxiety. Like there are natural things that we can do before we go to a pharmaceutical grade medication. It may not need to be that, right? So working with someone who understands how your body, when I went recently, I was short on zinc. Well, zinc is actually really hard to get in foods, right? So my diet isn't going to help me with that unless I'm eating oysters every day for the most part, and I'm probably not. So, you have to figure out how that works, right? Some things can be done with food, but we don't all live in environments where all of the things that we need and all the minerals and nutrients that we need are available to us, right? They're just not, even at Whole Foods. I mean, that's just not a thing. So what am I low in, right? And our bodies change and go through different spells for who knows, different reasons, right? So we start to change. We're going through menopause or we're having babies or whatever it is, our chemistry is changing. Our body's needs are changing. So we have to really be mindful of what that means. Being low in B12 can make you really fatigued. Who knew? Who's thinking about B12, right? I mean, so, and if I say you need more B12, well, I don't know what that means. I mean, what am I eating? Do I need a shot? Am I taking a pill? Like, what am I doing? And so we have to really educate ourselves on where we're at, understand like how my body feels at an optimal level. And then when I'm not feeling optimal, what are my early indicators, right? Sleep, hunger, either too much or not enough, not moving, aches and pains, joint pains. I mean, there are things, right? Feeling a lot of anxiety, feeling more depression than usual. All of these things are early indicators that something's off in our system, right? So it is important to just have that mind body connection so that we are aware of what's happening and that we can be intentional in our preventativeness and knowing what keeps us going and happy and healthy. And that's a learning process. It really is. So the benefits kind of cover some of these, but improved mental clarity and mood. I don't know about you, but I mean, I don't like it when I'm not good. I don't like it when I'm edgy or I'm anxious or I feel depressed or I just don't feel good or I feel too tired. Right. And then I'm like, ugh, what do I do? What's in my life that I can change? What can I skip? I'm going to skip usually the thing that I enjoy because I have to go to work. Right. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to skip the thing that I enjoy because I have to go to work. I want to figure out how to have a good balance in my life so that I'm really enjoying all the things and I feel well enough to do that. For me personally, I have 8 grandchildren and I want to be active. I want to be hiking. I want to be swimming with them. I want to be going and doing fun things like zip lining, right? I want to be doing those things. So it keeps me motivated to stay in good health because I want to be active. I want to be doing the fun things, getting out in the sun, going to the beach, hiking in the mountains, doing all the things. A stronger immune system. And I can't say enough about, I think this is a really important, right? So you can get a flu shot, you can get a COVID shot, you can get whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if your gut health is not good, you're going to get some variation of the flu. You're going to get some variation of the cold. Am I saying that if your gut health is perfect, you'll never get another thing? I am not saying that. I am saying your body will fight it faster, it will fight it more effectively, and you'll have a better outcome, right? Sometimes, like during the COVID pandemic, especially in the beginning, we saw a lot of people that we saw as healthy that died very quickly, right? We'll never know all the answers to that. But what we do know is gut health can help us fight something in a way that works so that whatever other things we're doing as supplements then work even better, right? And even with like with gut health, so many things come up. Gut health is so directly related to stress and what we put in our bodies, right? So moving helps our bowels move, helps our body to absorb more nutrients. What we're putting in our bodies matters. But it matters also even with our vagus nerve, because if we don't have good gut health, it's often because we have stress. And then our bodies aren't, they shut down digestion, right? It goes into that dorsal state where it says, well, if I'm fighting for my life, I really don't need food, right? So a lot of times people will have chronic diarrhea, things like that, because they're really anxious. So you really see it in your bowels. And I know that sounds crazy, but all the sugar we eat really eats all the good bacteria, right? So when we start to understand what that looks like a little bit, we can then make better choices, right, in doing that. Reduce chronic stress and inflammation. We hear a lot about inflammation these days. Just like stress, not all stress is bad, not all inflammation is bad, right? If I fall and twist my ankle and my ankle swells, it's telling me something. It's protecting my body, it's doing its job, it's meant to do that. But chronic inflammation is a little bit different. So this is chronic inflammation that we see in the brain, in the joints, right? This is something that doesn't have a positive effect. We don't even know it's happening. So we're not dealing with it. This is where when we understand what foods can help us, what lifestyle can help us, we can then make better choices so that we naturally lower inflammation, so that we have a system that's working better and not in that chronic state of something's wrong, let me repair it, right? Because that's what inflammation tells the brain, is that we have to repair it, and then things are shutting down. More energy and better sleep. I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't want good energy and better sleep, because that's the biggest thing that people say to me when they walk in my door is, I'm not sleeping well and I'm exhausted, right? I have fatigue, I'm down, my mood's not good. This is an ongoing conversation that I have every single day. A greater sense of purpose and peace. Now, people often will say, how is that going to give me purpose, right? If I feel healthier, how does it give me purpose? Well, I think that we make choices based on how we feel, right? So if I don't feel well, I'm not going to choose to do the extra thing on Saturday or go join a community event or volunteer for something because I don't feel well. And it's all I can do to get through to the next thing, right? So I'm not doing that. Therefore, I don't always feel like I have purpose. I go to work and I come home. I mean, you hear that all the time, right? You go to work and you come home. Like, that can't be my life because that sucks, right? If you love your job, right? You're like, but I'm not having fun. Where am I having fun? What am I enjoying, right? And sustainable lifestyle changes. So people say, feels like a lot. Food's expensive. Like, I don't have time to prep. I don't have time to go to a yoga class. I don't have time to go to therapy. The nutritionist is going to tell me things I know, but I can't even do all that. And what I'm going to say is, listen, baby steps, right? And as you feel better, you have more energy, you have more motivation. You realize how much time you spend not doing those things, that you're doing other things that aren't healthy for you. And if you take some of that time, but it's baby steps, it's one thing at a time. Do it sustainably, make a change, see how that feels, make the next change, do the thing, be more intentional. I am not saying tomorrow, go out, cut out everything that's bad out of your diet, join a gym, do the thing. You won't sustain it, right? That's why we see in January, all the gyms get 1 million memberships, and by mid-February, everybody's done, right? Because it's not sustainable, because they're still not sleeping well. They're still not dealing with the root cause. And that takes us back to the root cause, right, to stuff. And so then we're not doing that. So these are all interconnected and it feels like a lot, but really, I have a client who has given me permission to share the story, but the client was a type 2 diabetic and came to see us because they had a history of trauma and their A1C number was really high. And they wanted to find out how they could work on this and to lower their A1C, work through their trauma. And this person did our program. They came to yoga, they did nutrition, they came to therapy, and their A1C is almost literally back to normal pre-diabetic. They are doing fantastic. They went back to work. This took time. This wasn't like they walked in the door day one and we said, oh, we'll just do these things, right? It was, oh, I'm starting to be more mindful about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. What was that trigger? Working through trauma so that our brain is not being hijacked by fight or flight makes a huge difference. You don't always know when your brain's being hijacked. We think we do, but you do if you're having a panic attack. But you don't when it's the subtle things that go into fight or flight that make you just more anxious, make you feel uneasy, make you want to avoid social situations. That's typically a fight or flight response, right? So there are real medical things that come from making these changes, and they don't happen overnight. They are a commitment, but that's why community is really important, right? Creating a community where you support each other. This is not about perfection. I'm never going to tell you never to have another piece of cake. I'm going to not do it. That's or have a cake. So I'm never going to tell you like don't take the day or sleep on Saturday if you need it. I mean, listen, do what you got to do, right? But really measure your life about am I doing the things that I love? Does that give me purpose? Do I feel good about it? Do I feel balanced? Maybe you are in a job with me. Maybe you're in a job that you feel stuck in for one reason or another. When you feel well enough, maybe you feel well enough to go look for something else, to believe in yourself differently, to make those types of choices, right? Those are all the things that can come from that. So the other thing is, how does it differ from conventional medicine? Well, as I've mentioned, we treat the root cause, right? We're not looking for just, I'm going to put your arm in a cast and we're going to heal this bone. That's great. I want to know, like, how you felt. I want to understand, like, what you were doing. And maybe you got dizzy that day. And I want to understand what the root cause of something is. If you're a type 2 diabetic and this is a, midlife onset and it's a lifestyle, I want to understand that lifestyle. I want to understand the choices you're making around food. I want to help you have a healthier relationship with food because food is not good or bad. Food is food. It's how we use food, right? And I love food. I love to cook. I love to travel and eat different foods in different places. I love food. I want everyone to eat food. Right? But I want you to understand what you're eating, right? And what works for you. I had to go gluten-free a couple years ago. It didn't bother me that much when I was young. It's not to the degree that it was interfering with my life, right? But then I found out I had two markers for celiacs, and I was having some symptomology, and I didn't understand kind of what was going on. Am I telling you that I've never had a piece of bread since then? No, I am not. I am telling you that on a day-to-day basis, I choose something different so that I'm not feeling that bloating. I'm not having the digestion issues that I was having, and it's made a huge difference. And when I first heard that, I was like, and I have tons of knowledge, but I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. Can I do that? What about biscuits and gravy, right? But I'll tell you that there are a lot of gluten-free great options out there, right? But something that small can make a huge difference in how you feel, how your digestion system works. I mean, it just depends. But that's not everybody. Not everybody needs to be gluten-free, right? So it is a matter of kind of figuring out what works for your lifestyle and how to do that. This is a preventative approach versus a reactive and diagnostic approach, right? So the holistic piece is how do I start doing the small things that help me feel better, give me a better mood, more motivation, help me find purpose, and be able to work that going forward, right? So that I avoid becoming a type 2 diabetic, so that I avoid having the gut health issues that or keeping my immune system down when I'm keeping a constant cold or something else is going on, right? So people have special things they need to work on. Maybe somebody has Lyme disease or they have MS. I mean, it just depends on what's happening in your system. Where's your stress level? Where are your, numbers? So are I need zinc right now. So, I mean, I don't know why, but where I'm at. So there we go. We're going to figure it out, right? So together between our practice and our community partners, we have a team that can help you figure that out and support you through it, right? So doesn't feel so out of the norm when you have a community who's doing the same types of things, who have tips and tricks, and you guys do stuff together, and it becomes a safe place to be and to talk about. Because I will tell you that a lot of people say, my family's never going to go for this. My family's never going to make these changes. My family's always making comments to me about it, right? And what I will say is, you're right. They often will, right? Because they're scared of change, because they don't know what that means for them. They don't know how to cook like that. They don't know how to eat like that. They don't know about moving like that because they too don't feel good. But this is where you get to be that influencer. You get to do it through mirroring a behavior and being the mentor for them to see that you look healthier, to be able to make those choices and create some good foods to take to your family event. And I'm like, oh, that's really good. Now, don't tell them what's in it until after, right? So we get them that way. Like I said, I cook, and I've really changed how I've cooked in the last probably 10 years, but really significantly in the last 5. And my family doesn't even usually know when I've substituted something or I've done something different. And I think that you can, and so it doesn't take me any more time. It doesn't take any more effort. It took me learning and trying new things and being open to it. Right? That's what it took me to do. Eating seasonally is great. And we have a few farmers markets here in Columbia. And most places do have farmers markets. And that seems easy in the summer, right? But, in the fall, it's root vegetables, right? So how do I eat seasonally? And it gives you an opportunity. One of the things I did like 10 years ago is I did this thing called green bean delivery, which we don't have here. And so every week they would bring me for $35, they would bring me this container, left it on my porch, and it would have all kinds of seasonal stuff in it. I pull stuff out of there and say, I have zero idea what that is. I don't know what that is. What am I going to do with it? But then I'd have to look it up and I'd have to, it made me have to try new things. This is where I learned about rainbow carrots, which I love. So it just every week was something different. They picked it up, they dropped it off. Couldn't have been easier for me. And I have my produce for the week. And you could buy other things too. And so then I started doing that, right? I bought this book called Clean Eating. Went to some seminars, I'd done some things. I saw the documentary Forks Over Knives, and Pam Popper is actually in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I was. And I went to a couple of her events there. And just over time learning and started to understand, right, how much of an impact this can make on your life. And it has. And on my family's life, they have a much better attitude about food today and about trying new things and about eating healthier than they ever would have before. Because I'm originally from West Virginia. They wanted me when they came over to make fried potatoes, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, some kind of usually biscuits and gravy, right? Definitely bacon. And this is what they wanted me to make, right? And because they love that down-home cooking, they eat that every day. We still have biscuits and gravy, right? I just make it gluten-free now, right? And it tastes the same. No one would know that gravy was any different because the components of what I needed it for. I use cornstarch to make gravy now instead of wheat, and it's all good, right? So it all works out. So it's not how I grew up eating. Everything is fried when it comes from. So everything. We did eat a lot of pinto meat, so maybe that was the healthiest thing we had. But we did put a lot of grease in. And you could buy 5-gallon buckets of lard, right? And I think you still can where it comes from. So just like, that is how people were eating. Yeah, natural methods focus on the whole being, right? Instead of focusing on the disease. So if someone comes in and they say, I have type 2 diabetes, because usually when you get a diagnosis, you get a piece of paper that says, hey, don't eat these things. Okay, I see that. Hope your numbers get better. Check your chips. Right? People were like, I don't even know what that means, right? We don't give support in that way, right? This does not have to mean your whole life has to change and that you can never have something you want again or you can't eat a piece of cake. It doesn't mean that. It means starting to understand how your body is reacting, what you need to do. Usually we need some movement to start moving things through, starting to look at ways that we use food to deal with our emotions, right? I don't know anybody who doesn't. It's just such a cliche to say, somebody breaks up with somebody and they eat a gallon of ice cream, right? It's always been a part of our society that we comfort ourselves with food. What's your grandma do? She gives you a cookie, right? Food is so important to us, and it's such a comfort to us. We don't want to lose that. We just want to figure out how we do that a little healthier in different moderation and how to not use it to push down emotions, right, that we're experiencing. Because it is pleasurable. So then we always, as humans, want to lean towards the pleasure piece, right? So real life applications, nutrition, exercise, mental wellness, spiritual practices, and lifestyle balances. Not changes all the time. There will be change, but it's not about upend your whole life, right? It is about what's the balance that works for you. So nutrition, we have a young lady named Zoe here who does nutrition for us here. And she has a specialty not only in nutrition, but in motivation. So she can really help you understand your motivation for why you want to do this or why you don't want to do this, right? I don't know about you, but there's sometimes I have no good reason for something. I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to. That sounds awful to me. I mean, I don't know. It's just the nature of it, right? Or we say, I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it. Why is that? What is my motivation? And that's something that Zoe can help you understand. Exercise, yoga, walking, strength training, Pilates, right? We choose yoga for a couple of reasons. One, I have always said yoga changed my life, probably saved my life. And because as someone that has a history of trauma, my nervous system was completely out of whack. And I was having a very difficult time just managing day to day with my anxiety, panic attacks, like those things were just really wrecking my life. And I'd had a hysterectomy at 30. And so my hormones were out of balance. So my whole body just felt like I don't even know what's happening, right? Like I just couldn't sleep, couldn't get balanced. My weight was shifting, which I had never done before. And I was like, how do I deal with this? And my friend Christina, who is on my advisory board, she lives in New York City and works for a therapeutic company as well that deals with trauma and addiction. And she bought me a flip chart yoga book. I had no idea what I was doing. I get into a pose, I'd have to flip the thing, right? And I get to the next pose. But it started me down a path of understanding and listening to my body differently, right? And working on my trauma and all of those things, which have all led me down this path, is kind of how that was. So yoga is what we choose here. We believe in it. We have a lot of science behind why it works. And when we talk about that mind body piece, this is huge. And we're so lucky to have Juliet because she does a great program. Thank you so much for all you do. And you're very knowledgeable. So you're really able to help people with understanding what they're experiencing and maybe why they're experiencing that, meeting them where they are and helping them move through that, right? Mental wellness. So we use a couple different modalities for mental health type stuff. We do talk therapy, psychotherapy. We do polyvagal theory, which is probably the biggest thing that I personally use because it is about our nervous system. It aligns with somatic therapies like yoga. And we start to understand, oh, that's why my body reacted that way, or that's why this happened. And then what can I do about it? It's not just happening to me. When I start to understand why it's happening and that I have some power over making a change, that's huge, right? Now I don't feel like I'm being victimized every time this happens to me. I feel out of control, which is what I often hear. Like I can't control it. I don't want to go to an event because what if I have a moment, right? And I don't know what's happening and I can't regulate it. Or they become phobias. And people say, I can't go do these things because now I can't drive, or now I can't go to these kinds of places because now that's just gotten to be the fear of the body's going to do something I don't understand and I can't control. So polyvagal theory goes hand in hand with somatic therapies. And we use EMDR, which is reprocessing how traumatic memories live in the brain so that it again is not triggering the nervous system, right? Because that's what happens. Melanie does DBR, which is deep brain reprocessing. And that works a little differently, but same kind of thing. We're moving these things around and moving them through you so that they get put away appropriately in the brain, and the vagus nerve isn't constantly being triggered that you're in danger, because that's often what's happening. It can keep weight on you, it can keep you anxious, it can keep you depressed, and that's because your body thinks you're constantly in danger. It can lead to a lot of physical stuff like heart attacks, gut health issues. I mean, there's diabetes, there's lots of things that it can lead to. Spiritual practices, prayer, gratitude, community. And so again, people use all of these forms, right? And that's why building community is really important for us here, because we're creating that space, using prayer, using the things that help you feel grateful for instead of a victim to the things we all have to do. So those demands can get really overwhelming. I got to pay the mortgage. I got to go to work. I got to do all of these things. We do. But hopefully we can find a way to have more balance so it doesn't feel like it's just all of the task-oriented things in our lives that overwhelm us and make us feel We don't have choices, because that's usually when we feel like we're losing agency or autonomy, is usually where we start to not feel great about it. Lifestyle balance. So, that work-life harmony and nature times. And people say, well, I don't have a choice but to work like this, or I don't have a choice to do this. I know there are times in life where that can feel really true, right? And maybe it is true. But there are things that we can start to do and start to say, let me try something different. Let me work through some of these things. So then maybe I have more confidence. I feel better physically. And then maybe I can start to do this thing differently, look for a different job, do a different thing. And I can tell you with people that we've worked with, all of those things have happened, right? They felt better. They got out of jobs they hated. They set better boundaries at work, right? Instead of feeling like they had to do certain things, they set better boundaries. They learned to ask for what they needed instead of feeling like they weren't entitled to that. So there's lots of ways that these things all work together to create the life that we want and the health that we need. Who can benefit? People managing chronic illnesses, right? Those experiencing stress, burnout, things like that. Literally everyone. Literally everyone. This is something that is for everybody, right? Kids. I deal a lot with autism. We talk about nutrition. We talk about stress. We talk about how their sensory system is always on hyper alert. How do we help people manage that? Literally everybody can benefit. I don't know anyone who lives in this world and lives a stress-free life, right? But do your stresses have to overwhelm you? Do they have to be the thing that you focus on? Or can they be the thing that you're like, oh yeah, that's happening. How do I move through that? How do I let that go? How do I not ruminate on it? How do I not start to develop any of these other issues because of these things happening, right? So yes, we're going to have stress. Life is not perfect. We will lose people that we love. We will lose jobs that we like. We will lose friendships that are meaningful to us. These things happen. How do we then move through them in a way that doesn't derail us, doesn't take our purpose away, and keeps us engaged with ourselves and our community, which is what's going to move us through it. There's something called post-traumatic growth that we don't talk much about. But almost anybody can tell you what PTSD is, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. We'd almost all tell you what that is. The post-traumatic growth, we think of trauma as being abuse, maybe a medical trauma, but we also have traumas in the world that are war-torn countries. We have people who live in poverty, right? There's other ways that life can be traumatic, and it's not just those things. Those things are big and they happen a lot, but there's lots of ways in which we have trauma. Post-traumatic growth is not that we don't experience traumatic events. It's that we find ways to use that experience to do something good. It doesn't mean that we don't have pain or hurt from that trauma. It means that we use that as a platform to then launch ourselves into saying, well, I'm going to do something about that. Or here's how I'm going to change the world because of that. Or here's how I'm going to contribute in some way that helped me to help someone else. I often think of John Walsh when I hear this, and a lot of people who aren't my age may not know who John Walsh is. But John Walsh lost a son through a kidnapping, and he was killed. And John Walsh created the Missing and Exploited Children that we use today. He started the faces on the milk cartons. He changed the fact that we still, even with children, waited 24 hours before we responded for a child. He changed that, right? He changed the FBI getting involved. He did America's Most Wanted. Him and his wife got divorced shortly after this. Was their only child at the time. He was 6. And they got remarried, and they had several other children, and they created this really great life. They're always going to miss Adam. It's always going to be a pain for them, right? But that is a great example of post-traumatic growth. Here's someone who took a horrific event in their life, mourned, grieved, had to work through all of those things because that's appropriate, right? But through community and drive and not wanting this to happen to someone else, he created something that has benefited all of our lives in the ways that we think of safety for children and getting things like the Amber Alert. I mean, all of those things. He wasn't the person behind the Amber Alert, but he supported that family, right? He still goes out to families when they have a child a lot of times who's taken. And he's made a big difference, right, in our society and in the things that we think about when it comes to missing and exploited children. So his son is now taking over that part. But I use John Walsh because I think he is a great example of post-traumatic, right? But we all can do that in our lives, right? We can get very stuck in, I don't know how to move beyond that. I don't know how physically to move beyond it. I don't know how mentally to move beyond it, right? But we can, and we do, and we find great ways to do that. And community is a huge part of that. Therapy is a part of that. Movement's a part of that. Somatic therapies are a part of that. Like diet and nutrition are a part of that. I worked in addictions previously, and when people were going after the withdrawal period, I'm like, listen, you understand, I feel triggered, right? I feel the need to use. A lot of times the brain doesn't know the difference between a hunger cue and a cue to use, right? So we talk about nutrition, keeping your blood sugar level, right? So that you're not having these big ups and downs. Like there's a lot of ways that we can use food to help us stay balanced within our bodies so that we can do the things we need to do, not have some of those different types of cravings. And if I'm having the craving, what do I really want? What's really going on? Am I emotionally feeling something? But really starting to understand what that is and not just, oh, I'm feeling this, therefore I act, right? What's going on? And using your community to help you get through those harder times. Final thought. Holistic health is not about rejecting modern medicine. And I want to make that clear. There's a time and place for medication in Western medicine, period. There is, right? If you break your leg, go to the hospital, right? You're in a car accident, go to the hospital. I am not saying there's not a place for Western medicine. This is a relationship, right? We need to have this balance between the two because Western medicine is limited. It's limited in what it can do. And a lot of doctors will tell you that this is all that we can do. I suggest you look at what they call complementary and alternative medicines, right? CAM services, which are somatic therapies, holistic treatments, right? These are the things that you need to be doing. Your nutrition. And we see it at the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, or Johns Hopkins. The bigger organizations are doing these things. They are using all of these components that we're talking about to help people find optimal health, right? Because they're all part of this holistic approach. So choosing a holistic approach can lead to a lasting change, deeper healing, and a more connected life. That's the other piece that when people walk in to see me, it's one of the biggest things that they say is that I feel disconnected. I don't feel like I have community. It's the loneliest time in human history. Some of that is technology. The pandemic certainly didn't help them, right? But people do not feel connected. And I see all these people every day, and I'm like, so why can't we connect with each other? What is that, right? Why aren't we connecting? Why aren't we building community, right? We're tired, we're stressed, right? We are judging ourselves, and therefore we think others are going to judge us. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we don't do that, but we need to connect. We need to show up and do the thing, be with each other. There's a difference. I love doing Juliet's classes online because I often can't come in real life, but I want to come in real life. Like that's where I'm working towards, right? Is that I can actually attend Juliet's classes because there is a different energy when we're with other people, right? We do exchange energy and we do exchange ideas, and you never know a great thing is going to happen if you don't get out and actually experience it, right? So making just those small changes to do just little things, even when we're tired. My best friend and I boxed for about a year. I loved it, by the way. And it was like, you're a yogi. I taught yoga at the time. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm also boxing. I felt so strong, right? My core was strong. I just felt really good. But listen, it helped to have a buddy sometimes because I'm like, I'm tired. I got off work. I'm like, last thing I feel like doing is going to have this guy kick my ass, right? I mean, I'm like, he was brutal, brutal. And, but I'd be like, she's going to be waiting on me, so I'm going to show up and do the thing, right? But I'm so glad I did it, right? So sometimes we need that community to help us with that motivation, right? Because we're all tired. You're like, I could just go home and get jobs, right? So it helps. It helps to do those things. So what's your call to action today? So your call to action today is start small. Start small. Consistent steps. So if you have a bad day, don't go to, oh, well, that's it. I'm over it, right? Just say, well, tomorrow I'm going to try to do better. Tomorrow I'm going to, so in each day, what am I doing today? What is here today? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just take the small, consistent steps. Don't add 15 things. Add a thing, right? Consult a holistic practitioner. So come in, have a conversation with one of us. Talk to us about what's going on. Let's see what works within your lifestyle. Let's see what we can do. If it's a community partner, we're going to hook you up. Maybe it's just coming to a yoga class, right? Maybe it's coming to therapy. Maybe it's going to nutrition, whatever it is, or some combination thereof, right? We're going to help you get there. And you're going to meet people when you come here who say, this was life-changing for me, right? This is how it benefits me. Still working on this thing, but this thing's doing much better, right? Now I feel a little more encouraged, or I feel like I can go talk to somebody about what I don't know what to do about that. So all of those things really matter. That's back to that community piece. Listen to your body, your best guide to healing. But you have to have some help sometimes to figure out how to listen to your body, right? And sometimes we're afraid. We're afraid that what we're feeling is something bigger, something we can't really address. And so we avoid it because that's human nature. We avoid stuff that feels like conflict or we feels overwhelming. We avoid it. So I'm going to say, have some courage, listen to your body, take small steps, get involved in the community. That's the best way to start down this path, right? Holistic health. And figuring out what works for you, right? Because I'm gluten-free, you don't be gluten-free, right? I mean, that's not a thing. So if I don't have time to prep all my food, where can I eat healthy? What can I order when I'm eating out that's going to be a healthier choice for me, right? What can I do? How can I do it? Because listen, we can't all do all the things. The weeks that I get to do it, if I have my druthers on Sunday, I go to the store, I go to the farmer's market, I get all the stuff, and I'm so excited, and I spend the time prepping, and my week goes really smoothly. Sometimes that doesn't happen. I've got something going on Sunday that doesn't happen, and I have to say, Sophia, I need something to eat today, so I can't starve myself, right? Because I didn't prepare appropriately. So what am I getting, right? Because what's going to happen if I don't? I'm going to run to McDonald's. I'm going to eat a bag of chips. I'm going to do something that I'm not going to feel good about later. And I don't mean just the guilt, because I don't really have that, but I don't feel well physically because that's not how I typically eat, right? So where can I get something healthier? I'll get some hummus, right? From Noma. Where can I get a decent salad? I love the crab salad from Blue Marlin. Right? So I mean, where can I get something healthy? Where can I make a different choice and not just a convenient choice, right? But it doesn't have to be that inconvenient. It just has to be mindful, right? Just mindful. Well, are there any questions online or any questions in the room? No? No questions at all? Well, I'm here for it. So any other questions you may have, please don't hesitate to reach out and talk to one of us because we'd love to help you find the right people for what you're looking to do and the right resources for what you're looking to do and join this journey with you. So thanks a lot for coming today. I really appreciate it. See you all soon.